Alright, class, I have a very important announcement to make. This upcoming Friday, there will be a field trip. We all remember how good it felt to find out a field trip was coming up. This so simple yet so sweet compound word had so many underlying meanings. But the one thing it symbolized that so as every other meaning is missing out on school. It didn't matter if the field trip was to the Museum of Grass, as long as I was getting out of class, I was getting that permission slip signed. Or so I thought. When I say this, I know I'm not the only one that struggled to remember to get permission slip signed. I mean, as an 8-year-old kid, after a 7-hour-long day of watching Bill Nye, by the time I get home, it's hard to remember something as simple as a piece of paper. Sometimes I got lucky and remembered the day of, and get my dad to sign it before he dropped me off, and I'd be good. But if that didn't work, well, I was only left with one option.
The Forger.
Hey boss, I got somebody that wants to talk to you. Says he needs a signature. Don't be funny with me, Marco. You know the price. A pizza Lunchable and 2 silly bands. But please don't let it be a trip that you have to pay money for to secure a spot. If you forget that money, you might as well go back home because you're not getting on that bus, unless you're the bus driver himself. But there was one time I was able to do the impossible and sneak my way into a bus that I didn't pay for. I knew as long as I made it on the bus and we made it to the destination, they had no choice but to take me back. Right? But let's backtrack. Getting home the night before a field trip was the hardest part of the week. I couldn't fall asleep if Cardi B put some special candy in my drink. I couldn't even fall asleep if Mike Tyson formally introduced me to his left hook. The anticipation of the next day would keep me up for hours. But when I finally did fall asleep, I woke up, I always jolted up with more energy than I had had that whole month. I woke up, brushed my teeth, put my clothes on, sat down in the car all before my dad could sit up and do the morning stare. Once I got to school, I remember waiting on all my friends to get to school and walk in class so we could all sit together. On field trip days at my elementary school, instead of eating in the lunchroom, we would all eat in the class, and even though essentially it was the same thing, eating in the class was 100 times more fun than eating in the lunchroom. Every field trip day, they'd give us bag lunches, and they were always the same thing: an apple, a turkey sandwich, some juice or milk, and either a Scooby-Doo gummies or Teddy Grahams. And because of this slight variety, we trade for things we wanted as we got ready for the trip. And even though these lunches were nothing special, I loved them. And to me, they were better than the average lunch food we got every day. When it was finally time to get on the bus, everybody fought to get to the back seats, since they were the furthest away from the teachers. But the common rule for bus rides was that each student had to sit two to a seat because there were too many kids for each person to have their own seat. Whenever we got on the bus, I was one of the window seats so I could gaze at the scenery as we drove through the city. But this really played against me in like middle school because on the way back from any trip, I would be tired most of the time and I'd fall asleep on the bus with my head leaning on the window. And I'd be perfectly fine all the way up until we got a couple of blocks away from the school because for whatever reason, the way the bus driver would be driving, my head would always bang against the glass super hard and I would wake up mad as freak. And of course, I tried to go to sleep again right after. Every single time, I just bang my head again and give up. Maybe that's some tactic all bus drivers use to get everybody to get ready to get kicked off the bus. The last thing I'll share is when I went on the best field trip of my life. This is fast forwarded to my sophomore year of high school, just a few months before the pandemic lockdown, and my school was taking us to visit college and get ideas for where we wanted to go in the future and stuff. Well, this specific trip was for students in the engineering program only, which I was in. So we headed to Auburn University, and when we got there, it started off like a normal trip where the whole group goes to the same place. But maybe about 20 minutes into the trip, one of the teachers that's normally pretty strict relaxed and let everybody split up and explore the campus as long as we met back at a specific place at a specific time. There is nothing I could have heard that day that would have put me in a better mood. Simply because up to that point I had had pretty strict parents, specifically a pretty strict mom. So this is my first ounce of true freedom, and I made the most out of every second of that trip. I roamed that campus with my group of friends like I was enrolled at the school. And I remember specifically this group of girls that were also visiting the college. They were following my group wherever we went. And I can't say I blame them because, let's just say my coworkers call me Chris. You know, like Chris and Riz, but switched together. Yeah, you get it. Okay, love you. Bye.